Damn rush hour, I thought as I sat in a line of cars and buses. All I wanted was to get home and go to bed. 3 days ago, I was called out with 2 assistants to fix a serious breakdown at one of my company's manufacturing plants in the north. After working around the clock, we finally got the line up and running again on Thursday afternoon. The 3 of us who had gone out to fix the problem locked ourselves in the office for a few hours while the line workers got back to earning real money. Around 4 in the morning, we decided we had finally fixed the problem and decided to head home. I gave one of my assistants a ride home and was now trying to navigate the morning traffic to take Ronnie home. But something had brought traffic on High Street to a near standstill. As I approached the traffic jam, I realized that some idiot had parked on a double yellow line. High Street in our town is quite an old and very narrow street. One thoughtlessly parked car can cause a lot of problems, especially at that time of day. As I got closer, I noticed that it was one of those damn huge Shoguns. Mary, my wife Fiona's best friend, drives one just like it, and I wondered if it was her. It was just like Mary. I've never been fond of her. She thought she was infallible. Suddenly, I noticed Fiona walking from the pharmacy toward the Shogun with a small paper bag, the kind you usually put medicine in. Fiona walked up to the Shogun and, giving the middle finger to some guy who honked at them, got into the front passenger seat and the Shogun drove off. I was still some distance away, and Fiona didn't seem to notice me, but I was damn curious about what Fiona and Mary were doing so early in the morning. I didn't say anything to Ronnie because I was sure he would make some stupid comment. After I dropped him off at his house, I headed home. When I walked in the door, I was in for a shock. Fiona came up to me in her robe and looked like she had just gotten out of bed. Even her hair was tousled. "Hi, honey," she said, hugging me around the neck and kissing me. "I guess you want something to eat before you go to bed." I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I wasn't born yesterday. For some reason, something about her greeting seemed off. 20 minutes ago, Fiona was standing on the main street in a short black skirt and that purple blouse that always made her look so cute. And now she was standing in front of me looking like she'd just gotten out of bed, with traces of that damn cream she puts on her face at night. And she was combing her tangled hair when I walked in the door. Oh yeah, and she had toothpaste in her mouth. Nothing unusual, I'll admit, but Fiona is a creature of habit. She brushes her teeth after her morning shower, and her hair was still dry, which meant she hadn't had time to shower yet. What to do? That was the question I asked myself. Say something or wait and see how things unfolded. I've been solving my employer's problems my whole life. To my bosses, I'm just a cat with whiskers when it comes to problem solving. My method is simple. When a problem arises, say and do as little as possible until you understand what it is. Hasty actions rarely solve anything. Moreover, they can often make the situation worse if you do the wrong thing. No, you need to sit down and gather all the necessary information before making a decision. No, don't worry, Fiona. I'll just take a shower and rest for a couple of hours. Then I'll grab a bite to eat on my way to the office. I didn't get to finish a couple of things I needed to do before the weekend on Tuesday. Okay, honey, if you're using our bathroom, I'll take a shower in the guest room. Oh, you're not coming with me? I've missed you the last couple of days. We could have some fun. I'm not really sure why I said that. Maybe I just wanted to hear Fiona's response. No luck, cowboy. I overslept a little today and I'm already running late. Once you start, we'll be in bed until lunchtime, and I have to get to the office. Don't forget we're going to Mary and Jim's engagement party tonight. I don't want to be late. Don't worry, baby. I have nothing to do at the office. I'll probably be back before you are. I must admit that I was pleased with my self-control. Inside, I was furious, but Fiona had no idea. I was damn sure she had spent the whole night with Mary, and when I saw them, they were already on their way home. The quick change into her bathrobe convinced me that she probably hadn't been playing the role of the happy, faithful wife while I was away. Well, at least she must have spent the whole night in clubs. That's not what a wife who's been married for 8 years does without her husband's knowledge. We went to our bathrooms, and then I got into bed. Fiona came in, kissed me, and went to her office. I lay there trying to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. You know when you get the feeling that the person you trust most in the world? Well, I have to give her the benefit of the doubt, so I'll just say, isn't behaving the way you'd like them to, and all kinds of scenarios run through your head. Most of them are very unpleasant. After an hour or so, still unable to sleep, I got up again, made some coffee, and prepared breakfast, which immediately went into the garbage chute because for some reason I had lost my appetite, and with it, my ability to sleep. Images flashed through my mind of Fiona crossing the street and standing in the hallway in her bathrobe when I walked in the door. And there was something else very strange. The pharmacy doesn't usually open until 9. How the hell did Fiona manage to buy something at 7:45 in the morning when I saw her there? Then I remembered her friend Gemma. Gemma's parents owned the pharmacy, and Gemma had become a pharmacist when she came back from university. When I finished washing the dishes after breakfast, my thoughts turned to what I should have thought about much earlier. There was a glass on the dish rack. What was so strange about that? Nothing really, but it was there. I racked my brains trying to figure out what the hell was going on with Fiona. I took a couple of aspirin, and the glass was just the right size to wash them down. Suddenly, I wondered what the hell was in that paper bag I had seen at Fiona's house that morning. What could she have persuaded Gemma to open the pharmacy early for her? What could be so urgent? I had to search the house. The bag from the pharmacy was quickly found in a recycling bag in the basement. Fiona really cares about saving the planet, but in this case, I think she was making a mistake. But searching the rest of the house didn't turn up anything at first. Then I thought about opening those nasty little bags that Fiona, like most women for obvious reasons, leaves in the trash can for a few days every month. Fortunately, I didn't have to open and search any of them. The one I was looking for was easy to spot because it was the only one. However, it would have stood out like a sore thumb anyway, as it appeared to contain very little. Fiona, you could have at least wrapped the contents in a towel. When I opened the bag, I found a small cardboard box and a pull-out package containing 2 Levanella pills and the usual leaflet warning about side effects. For those who are not familiar with Levanella pills, they are better known as morning-after pills. Well, that's it. Game, set, and match. The end of my marriage, neatly wrapped in a small paper bag from the pharmacy. After all, there's only one reason to take the morning-after pill, and if you don't know what that is, you've got big problems. Now all I had to do was find out who the hell was the other player in Fiona's little game. Ah, yes, but the most skeptical among you may ask, how do you know it wasn't Mary who took those damn Levanelle pills? Well, that question can be answered in one word. Hysterectomy. And Mary is one of those women who loves to tell everyone about it. She had problems, no, I never listened, giving birth to her second child. At the slightest provocation, she can spend most of the evening recounting all the gory details. I've heard the beginning of this story so many times that I sometimes wonder if she uses it to seduce men. You know what I mean? I can have sex until the end of time and never get pregnant again. Thinking about it, I wonder if that's what her marriage was really like. Maybe her husband caught her with someone else, not the other way around, as she tells it. That would explain why her ex stayed with the kids. Convinced that my marriage was about to end, I stopped by the bank on my way to the office and made a few discreet changes to our bank accounts. Nothing too radical, but enough to ensure that my assets were secure. Fortunately, the mortgage on our house was in Fiona's name. The mortgage on our cottage in New Forest was in my name. To be honest, I think I came out ahead in this situation. As soon as I got to the office, I called the big boss. He had been trying to persuade me to take a management position at the company's factory in Southampton for some time. Southampton is very conveniently located for New Forest. That day I told him I was ready to move whenever he wanted. "Well done, Nick. That job is made for you," he said. "But I thought Fiona didn't want to move because she'd have to give up her job. Did you persuade her to change her mind?" "Not exactly, Roger. I think Fiona has decided she wants to change husbands. Or maybe she thinks I'm the kind of guy who'll put up with her fucking someone else when I'm not around. I could see that Roger was taken aback for a moment and didn't know what to say. Oh God, Nick, are you sure? I wouldn't have thought Fiona was capable of that. Neither did I, boss. That's why I married her. But I'm pretty sure some bitch was fucking her in the ass while I was in Preston this week. Shit, I'm sorry. What the fuck are you sorry for unless you were fucking her? Don't be an idiot, Nick. You know I would never do anything like that. I mean, I'm sorry I sent you there. If I hadn't, you would have been home, and she probably wouldn't have... You know. I don't see it that way, Roger. If she cared so little about me that she left and slept with some jerk while I was gone for a couple of nights, she could have done it all she wanted. Think about how many times I've been away in the last couple of years. A dozen, maybe 24 nights? Every time I was gone, she could have been having fun for all I know. All I have to do now is find out who she was with last night. You seem to be taking this very well, Nick. I'd probably climb the walls if I found out my wife was cheating on me. Ah, here we go, boss. This is what I pay you for. When it comes down to it, I'm calm, cool, and collected. I find what needs to be done, and I do it. But I'll be honest with you. On the outside, I'm calm and cool, but on the inside, I'm furious. Well, keep it together, Nick, and don't do anything stupid. Is there anything I can do to help? Just give me a couple of weeks' vacation and get my transfer to Southampton sorted out as soon as possible. No problem, Nick. There's a guy there who's been seconded from the Salford plant. He can't wait to get back home. Just say the word and you're on. Let's say 2 weeks from now. On Monday? I'll go and clear my desk now. The guys will sort out what I leave behind. Roger, I don't know who you're going to put in my place, but I think Ronnie is the best option. He hasn't been with us as long as some of the others, but everyone respects his opinion and listens to him. Judging by your assessment of his work, he's a good fit. If you think he's right for the job, I'll offer him the position. And Nick, you do realize that this position in Southampton gives you a seat on the board of directors, don't you? Of course, boss, I said as I left his office. I spent the rest of the day sorting out urgent matters on my desk and bringing Ronnie up to speed. I couldn't tell him that he was being offered my job, but I could make sure he didn't get any unpleasant surprises. It took a little longer than I expected, and Fiona came home before I did. I thought you said you'd be back early today. I left work at 4 because I thought you'd want to play a little before we went to the party. Sorry, baby. I had some unexpected things come up. Listen, baby. There's no time to play if you want to make it to the party. I'd better go wash up and get changed. We could take a shower together. There was a mischievous gleam in Fiona's eyes. Not now, baby. We'll have plenty of time after the party. I still had no idea who she had slept with last night, and I didn't want to catch anything from her. So sex with Fiona was the last thing on my mind. On the way to the party, I decided to see if she was going to come clean and tell me what had happened. I thought that maybe everything that had happened the night before had been a mistake on her part. Maybe she regretted it now and wanted to clear her conscience. How did everything go while I was gone? I asked. What happened? Well, what were you doing last night while I was crawling around this damn factory? I don't know if Fiona had planned what to say in advance, but she wasn't caught off guard. I suppose she figured that even though I had called her on Thursday afternoon to ask how she was doing, I might well have called her at home that evening and gotten no answer. Nothing much. When I told Mary you were still stuck up north, she suggested we have dinner right after work. Then we went for a drink, and then she drove me home. I think I overdid it on the gin, and now I feel awful. I was dead this morning. Very good, Fiona, even if I do say so myself. She covered it up very well. If I had called, she might have been with Mary, and when Fiona drinks, she sleeps like a log. Her phone won't wake her up. If I hadn't seen her at the pharmacy, I would have believed her. Which pub did you go to? The Plough. We had dinner at a little Indian restaurant, and then we went to the Plough. We didn't plan to stay late, but there was karaoke last night, so we stayed to watch. Poor Mary couldn't drink much because she was driving. But I'm afraid I overdid it on the strong stuff. It all sounded very plausible, except that the Plough was the pub where everyone from Fiona and Mary's office went. I doubted they were at the Plough alone. Jim was probably there anyway. God, that bastard practically lived there. But Fiona didn't mention Jim. I decided that Fiona had gone to dinner with Jim and Mary, and since Fiona hates being the third wheel, I decided there was someone else with them. All that was left to figure out was who. Mary and Jim's engagement party was a grand affair, held in a banquet hall at a hotel on the outskirts of town. Well, it had to be. That was typical Jim. He did everything in excess. He planned to be the big boss at the office and lived as if he already was. Personally, I thought his company was crazy to make Jim the boss. Jim loves to drink too much. That's why Mary was always the designated driver. Jim lost his license because of a terrible drunk driving incident. The party went very well. The entire venue was packed with people from Fiona's company. These are people who enjoy socializing and parties. This party was more of a corporate event. Fiona and I had been to so many parties with these people that I knew them all quite well. I thought that if I watched closely, I would notice who Fiona had been with the night before. In fact, it didn't take me long to pick out the guy who I thought was the most likely candidate. Bruce Campbell had become Fiona's boss a few months earlier, and she had been complaining constantly that she didn't like him, but that had never stopped her from dancing with him in the past. That evening, Campbell didn't even approach Fiona, an inexplicable change in behavior. That was my first clue. The second clue came when I was standing at the bar, waiting to be served. Campbell was standing behind me, and in the mirror behind the bar, I saw him push the guy standing next to him and then smirk in my direction. Admittedly, it was a weak suspicion, but it was enough for me. Now all that was left was to finish the job. I had been hanging out with this bunch of jerks for several years, so I knew many of them. As the evening progressed, I decided I needed to find one particular guy. Ralph was a pain in the ass, but that night he was going to be useful to me because he was the type who couldn't keep his mouth shut. I waited and watched him until I saw him go outside, presumably to smoke, and followed him. But when I stepped out onto the porch, Ralph was nowhere to be seen. Out of curiosity, I looked around for him, but at first I couldn't find him. Then I heard a giggle. I walked over to the railing and saw Ralph below with one of the young secretaries. God, is this how everyone in this company lives? I thought. But then a new, better plan popped into my head. I took out my cell phone and, pretending not to notice Ralph and the girl standing right below me, called my home answering machine. The giggling stopped as soon as they heard me press the first button on the keypad. Then I started a conversation with myself. Hi, Donnie, how's it going? No, not great. I got the results this afternoon. They think it's pretty serious, but with time and luck, it can be cured. No, it's not that bad. It's gonorrhea. The only problem is that it's a strain that's damn resistant to penicillin. It's going to take a while to treat. Yeah, they have some kind of special super strong antibiotic. Well, I feel sorry for any idiot who's been fucking her for the last few weeks. Then again, she probably picked it up from one of those assholes. I don't know who she's been fucking while I've been away. I wouldn't advise anyone to get closer than a meter to her. Well, divorce is the only way out of this situation, in my opinion. Would you forgive her if she were your wife and you found out she'd been fucking everyone behind your back? I don't know. I think it'll all come out either tonight or tomorrow morning. No, I can't do anything right now. We're at Fiona's friend's engagement party. Okay, fine, buddy. We'll talk tomorrow. I'll let you know how it goes. I returned to the banquet hall, hoping that Ralph had overheard everything I said. If he knew or suspected that Campbell had slept with Fiona, I hoped he would figure it out for himself and put two and two together. That's the problem with nosy gossips. They tailor the facts to fit their version of events. Fiona was sitting with her friends chatting, and I doubted she had even noticed my absence, so I went to the bar for another non-alcoholic drink. I don't drink alcohol when I'm driving. I watched as Ralph and his girlfriend returned to the hall. The girl went over to her friends, and they immediately gathered in a circle. I assumed that the Dutch whispers had begun. Ralph looked around the room and spotted Campbell dancing with a woman. I watched as Ralph made his way around the dance floor until he was next to Campbell, where he waved at him not very subtly. But Campbell ignored him. Meanwhile, I managed to find old Gordon, the current big boss at the company. Keeping my eyes on Ralph, I approached him. "Mr. Gordon." "Oh, how are you, Nick? How's Vida sound? You know you should have taken that job I offered you. I'm retiring this year. I think you'd be the perfect candidate to take my place." "I have a question for you, sir. Is there still a clause in the company contract prohibiting friendly relations?" Old Gordon changed abruptly. "Nick, is there something I should know about?" "I'd like you to keep an eye on Ralph and Bruce Campbell, sir. I think Ralph is about to tell Campbell something he won't like." "Please don't talk in riddles. Nick, if something is going on, I need to know about it." "I don't have any proof at the moment, sir, but I think I will soon. Would you like to come with me?" Ralph and Campbell were talking, and I noticed Campbell suddenly stand up straight and turn sharply toward Fiona. All the blood drained from his face, but when he stared at Fiona, he began to blush. Bad news, alcohol and anger. Not a very good combination. Campbell started toward Fiona, and I asked Mr. Gordon to follow me. We approached the table, standing behind Campbell, and he clearly didn't notice us. "You fucking slut!" Campbell yelled at Fiona. "If I caught this fucking pox from you, I'll fire you, you little slut." Fiona blushed and didn't know what to say. "Mr. Campbell, do I understand correctly from your statement that you and Mrs. Blackie were, in a close relationship?" Campbell turned around and saw Mr. Gordon and me. No, sir, I was just saying—" Campbell tried to come up with an alibi. "From what I just heard, it sounded like you were accusing Mrs. Blackie of infecting you with a venereal disease. There's only one way that could have happened, Bruce. Do you think I'm an idiot?" "I don't need to hear any more. Not that I need to, but I just remembered that there's a clause in your contract prohibiting friendly relations. You and Mrs. Blackie are both married, so that clause applies. On Monday morning, you'll both be fired." "You can't do that." "Oh, I can't. Just look around. I'm sure many of your colleagues, as well as Mr. Blackie, heard your emotional outburst. Take me to court and you'll be fired with laughter." Mr. Gordon turned to me. "I'm very sorry, Nick. This must be very unpleasant and humiliating for you. If I had suspected anything, I would have taken action sooner." "I understand, sir, but I only found out about this today. I think I'll go home if you don't mind." When I turned away, I saw Fiona sitting with her face buried in her hands, sobbing loudly. The music had stopped, and everyone in the hall was looking at us. I picked up my coat and left the hotel lobby. When I reached my discovery, I realized I was too agitated to drive. Don't think I'm a cold bastard. It had been a very emotional day for me. But I managed to contain my anger. I leaned against the car and lit a cigarette to calm down a little. Then I noticed Campbell and his wife coming out of the hotel. More accurately, I heard them. Mrs. Campbell was telling Campbell exactly what she thought of him in no uncertain terms, and he was responding with profanity. When Campbell saw me, he forgot about his wife and headed straight for me. "You fucking bastard, you set me up, didn't you? I'll kill you, you little shit." Oh, God, I thought. Campbell, being a little bigger than me, decided he'd found someone to take his anger out on. The problem was that Campbell had drunk quite a lot of alcohol that evening, and I hadn't had anything to drink. This created a slight problem for me, as his senses were somewhat dulled and he wouldn't feel the pain as much. Therefore, it took him longer to realize that it was best to stay on the ground once I had put him there. But on the other hand, his coordination must have been zero, and it was. His first punch landed on the doorframe of the car when I dodged to the side. I don't think he managed to land another punch. I caught him with one punch to the kidneys and a punch to the throat. The fun was over when Campbell was lying on the ground, gasping for air. His wife came over and kicked him a couple of times, making derogatory remarks about his parenting skills. Then she smiled at me and walked away. I got into my disco and drove home. Half an hour after I arrived, I heard a taxi pull up. A few moments later, the doorbell rang. Fiona hadn't taken her keys with her. I considered leaving her outside but changed my mind. "What the hell did you do, telling everyone I have a venereal disease?" Fiona used the old first strike wins tactic. "I didn't tell anyone you had a sexually transmitted disease, Fiona. Is it my fault that your colleagues misunderstood and jumped to conclusions? Your boyfriend sounded very upset. What was he saying about you giving him gonorrhea? You must have slept with him to do that to him. How long have you been doing this, Fiona? What kind of stupid bitch are you? Did you even think about how you might have gotten it?" Fiona just stood there staring at me. Then she looked down at the floor. "Come on, Fiona. Isn't it time you told me it's all my fault? That I treated you badly or didn't satisfy you in bed or something like that? You're not answering me, girl. Tell me why it's my fault you let that fucking asshole fuck you." "I didn't want it, honestly. It was an accident." "An accident? What happened? You just happened to be naked? Then you accidentally bumped into each other? Don't give me that crap, Fiona. You went out to dinner with Pratt last night, didn't you?" "Yes, but you weren't there." "Oh shit, there it is. It's my fault. Damn it, girl, you called me to make sure I wasn't home. What do you take me for, an idiot?" "No, Nick, that's not what I meant. You weren't going to be home, and Mary asked me if I wanted to have dinner with them. And you took Campbell with you so he could keep you company. Well, you know I don't like being a third wheel. And after dinner you went to the pub, got drunk, and the next thing you remember is waking up in bed with Campbell." "Yes, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly how it was. I didn't want to sleep with him. I just got drunk. It was an accident, Nick, honestly." "Nonsense, Fiona. All you've done since Campbell took your place in the office is complain about him. You complained about him to me because you thought I wouldn't suspect you liked him. Yesterday afternoon he asked you out to dinner, probably after Jim told him I was out of town. That's why you called me. You didn't want me to show up and catch you two together. You went to the pub, that's true, but I doubt you stayed there that long, and you certainly didn't drink yourself into a stupor. You think I don't know how a hangover affects you, girl? You couldn't have gone to work today if you were that drunk. No, you planned to go back to Mary and Jim and have some fun. But tell me, how is Jim in bed? Was he better than Campbell?" "What?" Fiona stared at me with wide eyes. "Come on, don't try to tell me you two never swapped partners. I saw the look on Mary and Jim's faces when Campbell accused you of giving him an STD. They were scared shitless. They think they've got it too, don't they?" Fiona's face showed complete defeat, and she slowly sank into a chair. "You know everything, don't you?" "I think I know almost everything, yes, but I don't know how long it's been going on." "I'm sorry, Nick. It was just last night, honestly. I really don't know what came over me. Is there any way to forget about it?" "Oh, I've already forgotten all about it, girl. I forgot about it this afternoon when I accepted the job offer in Southampton. I'm moving to the cottage tomorrow. If we agree to a divorce, it'll all be settled in a couple of months." "You're not going to divorce me just because of one stupid mistake, are you?" "What makes you think it's just one stupid mistake, Fiona? You lied to me for months when you said you hated Campbell. If you felt attracted to him and wanted to stay faithful to me, you could have supported me when I was offered the job in Southampton. Then you wouldn't have had to see him anymore. But no, you didn't want to leave your job, as you said yourself. But I think maybe you didn't want to leave Campbell. Well, sleeping with one guy can be considered a mistake. But swapping partners with your friend Mary? That's not a mistake. That's called swinging, and I'm not into that. Tell me, I'm just curious. Did Jim have a threesome with you and Mary when I wasn't there?" "Oh, shit, no. Oh, God, what have I done to us?" "Not us, girl, yourself. From now on, you're on your own. I'm leaving. I'll come back for my things over the weekend. You better tell Jim to run if he sees me. No, please wait, Nick. Let's talk. I slammed the door as I left the house. Well, things didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. Fiona stopped me when I returned for my things and personal belongings. We had many unnecessary, long and drawn-out discussions at her desk and at my lawyer's office, during which she repeatedly asked me to reconsider and give her another chance. During these meetings, she often surprised me with her candor about everything that had happened and its consequences. Apparently, on Monday morning, Mr. Gordon called Fiona into his office and asked her to explain what had happened. As a result, both Jim and Campbell were fired. Although Jim was not married, Fiona was, and that was enough for Mr. Gordon to make his decision. In fact, Fiona was offered a position at another company within the same organization. I can only assume that they thought that since two managers were involved in this unfortunate story, a good lawyer would probably be able to prove sexual harassment. Not that I think that thought crossed Fiona's mind. At our last meeting, we both signed the papers that ended our marriage. We didn't have to attend any hearings, as the divorce was just a formality. But as I said goodbye to Fiona, thinking it was the last time I would ever see her, she looked at me and said, "This isn't goodbye. If I can help it, Nick. I'm not giving up that easily. I made a mistake. I know I hurt you deeply and I'm sorry. But I pray that one day you will find it in your heart to forgive me. I will wait for that day." The next 6 months of my life were completely consumed by my new job. I spent many hours getting to know everyone who worked at the facility, from security guards and cleaners to employees working 3 shifts on the production lines. Of course, I didn't remember all their names, but they all remembered my face, and I could recognize most of them. I'm not much of a cook, so I usually had breakfast and lunch in the company canteen and dinner at Forrester's, a village pub. It was only a couple of 100 yards from the cottage. Just when I thought I was settling into my new life, one of my old neighbors dropped by. He and his wife were on vacation on the South Coast and decided to stop by to see if I was all right. By the time they left, I had already found out that Fiona had sold the house, but they didn't know where she had moved to. I really should have paid more attention to what was going on in the village, because when I returned from the office the following Monday morning, there was a moving truck parked outside the small cottage opposite Forrester's. When I returned from work on Tuesday evening, I was greeted by the sight of a woman in a black skirt and purple blouse standing outside the cottage. Damn. Fiona knew I thought she looked beautiful in that outfit. After that, she stood there every evening and waved at me as I drove past. She was still standing there when I went to the pub for dinner, although she never made me feel awkward by coming inside while I was there. Everyone in the village had known Fiona and me for years, and I soon discovered that Fiona involved everyone in her schemes. When I went to the pub or anywhere else in the village, the conversation soon turned to poor Fiona. Not to me, and they never mentioned her by name. No, they talked about her among themselves, about how unhappy and lonely she was. But they made damn sure I heard them. After several months of convincing myself that I wouldn't let them get to me, I stopped eating out so I wouldn't have to hear their conversations. I wanted to show them all that I was a man of strong convictions. But I realized one thing. The poor, lonely bastard was me. So tonight I'm going to have dinner at Forrester's with Fiona. What will happen? I don't know. I know I've always loved her, but can I forget what she did? That's a question with no answer. Life goes on.